There are many reasons to love Souls games, especially one as large as Elden Ring and its DLC. So many weapons to use, characters to interact with, dungeons to dwell, and most importantly, there are a lot of bosses to fight. A few hundred bosses between the base game and Shadow of the Erdtree. Many of them are incredibly iconic and widely loved by the fanbase. Inevitably, with having this many bosses, there are going to be ones that the fanbase really hates. So today we're going to take a look at the 10 worst bosses that Elden Ring has to offer. And remember, this is my personal list, so if your least favorite boss doesn't appear in this video, make sure to let me know who it is down in the comments. And with that out of the way, let's get straight into the list. Number 10, Elden Beast. Starting off hot here, this is a boss that has been very divisive in the Elden Ring community for the longest time. There are those who would argue this boss has some of the best visuals ever in Souls, and I would agree with that, to an extent. While Elden Beast's moveset is incredibly flashy and the environment you're in is beautiful, I can't help but see this god as nothing more than a giant blob of galaxy splooge. Once you start looking past all the flair, it becomes clear that Elden Beast is simply a boring boss fight. Most of the time, you're chasing it across the arena, its moveset isn't all that interesting or fun to interact with, and it wasn't until patch 1.12 that players could use Torrent during the fight. And even with Torrent, the fight is still a slog, to the point it feels like I'm fighting an avoidant dragon boss or something. Not to mention, this is the second stage of the Radagon fight, which is not only flashy, but way more intense and interactive. Personally, it's one of my favorite fights in the whole game, but switching halfway through to the Elden Beast kind of ruins it. If you manage to get lucky and it doesn't run or fly away from you constantly, the fight turns into you standing at its back and attacking, while having to dodge the occasional combo from its Sacred Relic sword, which you can get from its Remembrance. It's a solid holy option that is great for clearing mobs. The other weapon you can get from the Remembrance is Marika's hammer, which is the hammer you see Radagon using. It's not bad either, but the Remembrance weapons aren't enough to get it out of the number 10 spot. All in all, as the final boss of the main story, the Elden Beast simply doesn't stack up to the other major bosses in the game. However, it's definitely not the worst, and it's not even the worst Remembrance boss on this list. Also, I will admit the soundtrack is pretty damn good. Number 9, Ancient Dragon Sinisax. Originally, I was going to be kind to the dragon bosses of this game, until I remembered that this asshole exists. On my first playthrough of the DLC, and after all that time of slaying dragons in the base game, I climbed Jagged Peak, came across Sinisax, died once, then officially decided I had had enough of the monotonous dragon fights, and ran right past the idiot. After revisiting the fight recently, I still feel the exact same way. The combat loop of this fight is terrible even by dragon standards. There aren't many openings to dump damage because you will spend most of your time avoiding attacks that will absolutely destroy you. Hop on Torrent, chase the dragon down, hit the legs once or twice, don't get one shot, then rinse and repeat. It is a loop we all know too well, and I don't know a single person that likes it. And considering this is right before arguably the best dragon fight in all of Souls, there isn't any real reason to stop and dance with Sinisax. You do get an Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone as well as a Somber one, and 200,000 runes upon defeating the beast. For some of you, that might make this fight worth it, but personally, I wouldn't even interact with this boss unless I really needed the smithing stones. FromSoft is over here copy and pasting dragon fights, while I'm waiting for them to implement the alternate approach of rizzing the dragons up, donkey style. Get your stuff together, FromSoft, come on! In all seriousness though, with the size of the arena you fight Sinisax in, and the constant cycle of chasing the dragon down, doing very little damage, and having to chase it again, Sinisax is so damn uninteresting, it hurts. Number 8. Sir Gideon Ofnir, the All-Knowing. Where do I begin with this tweaker? You meet him in the Round Table Hold, and he yaps. He then spies on you until the end of the game, where he then yaps some more before quote-unquote fighting you. And by fighting, I mean repeatedly rolling away and spamming comets. If you're lucky, he'll change it up and do Blood Boon or something. This guy has other spells, he can use other spells, but he just really likes Comet. I know he was supposed to be a mysterious character that appears to be friendly, but tries to get in your way at the very end. Nothing about that dynamic hits at all. It feels like you're fighting an average mage you would find in PvP. Not a single thing about the fight is intense or exciting. Sure, he does do insane damage with his spells, and the spam does get annoying, but you can easily play around them. Literally get a weapon with decent reach, follow him around, stay within melee range, and attack him after he rolls. You will prevent him from healing or casting and take him out in no time. His armor is decent looking, which he does drop on death, along with the Scepter of the All-Knowing. The Scepter isn't that strong of a weapon, it's really just another mid-hammer. And he calls himself the All-Knowing? You cannot get more douchey and unlikable than that. From his dialogue to the fight itself, Gideon will absolutely make you snore. Number 7. Valiant Gargoyles. I am typically one to love the gargoyle aesthetic, especially when it's video game bosses and enemies. But giving us a duo Valiant Gargoyle fight in Elden Ring was so unnecessary. The fight starts as a 1v1 until about halfway through, where the second gargoyle comes out to play. From that point, it is a total chore. These gargoyles are resistant to literally everything, have very clunky, awkward animations, and are surprisingly agile for their size. Neither one is enjoyable to fight on their own, and all I ask is, why couldn't this have been one boss? A singular, more unique gargoyle that uses both a twin blade and greatsword would have been so much cooler than this aggravating jank fest. There's no interesting synergy between this duo. They just suck to fight. Once you defeat them, you do get access to 2 solid strength weapons, but there are plenty of better options out there. And this will come up again later, but gank or duo fights aren't always terrible. But in Elden Ring, most of them are, with this one being one of the worst offenders. At least, this is an entirely optional duo fight, unlike some others. If you want to artificially raise your blood pressure and put yourself through tedious BS for a lackluster reward, you can find this duo down in Siofra River. At least the black gargoyles are kinda cool. Number 6, Commander Gaius. Most of the major bosses in the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC are absolutely spectacular. It felt like FromSoft was having fun and flexing their talents like they consistently do when it comes to boss design. Upon entering Commander Gaius's arena though, I did not get this feeling. I saw this brute charging at me and immediately knew what I was in for. Gaius has a pretty large moveset consisting of attacks from his boar and his lance, with some gravity magic thrown into the mix. Similar to Elden Beast, this fight has great visuals. However, the awesome visuals of the attacks cannot be enjoyed most of the time due to Gaius and his rabid boar spazzing out like a falling star beast. Half the time you're fighting your camera, that damn charge attack is so janky most of the time you'll be questioning how you got hit by it. You're of course allowed to use Torrent during this fight, which helps deal with the charge attack, but doesn't make a massive difference overall. We know that horseback combat isn't exactly the greatest anyway. Constantly hopping on and off Torrent gets really old really fast. At least his armor is funny, and the sword lance is good. Those two things aren't keeping Commander Gaius off of this list though. And I know he has ties to Radahn in the lore as his sort of older brother or whatever, but he's not Radahn, and he never will be. Pinecone looking ass. Number 5. Fire Giant. I'm sure this comes as a shock to absolutely no one. The problems with the Fire Giant will become immediately obvious upon, well, reading his name. This is the David versus Goliath boss fight of Elden Ring, except it feels more like David versus Giant Flaming Dickhead. This lad is so large, and any of his attacks will nuke you. The only strategy to make it through this fight is to follow him around with Torrent when he rolls away from you, and stay right by his ankles. For the first half of the fight, you are swinging at feet while trying to avoid being one-shot by a massive fireball, or the giant's cheeks. You will find yourself getting clipped by all sorts of attacks, which are annoying to keep up with because, again, this dude is monstrous. Keep hacking away at that left ankle until it breaks, though. A weak spot will be revealed, allowing you to get some big damage off. Phase 2 is batshit insane. His fire magic gets a lot more intense. Massive AoE spells tracking you and spawning under your feet, along with physical AoE attacks coming from above, is a nightmare for any melee character. Using spells and other ranged options alleviates some of the pain of this fight, but at that point you're basically running away on Torrent the entire time, which isn't enjoyable. I will say I do appreciate some of the difficulty this boss brings to the table, and I really do like the Giant's Flame items, as well as the overall look of the fire giant. But the pacing of this fight is just awful, especially if you get unlucky and he does the roll repeatedly. It makes the fight a complete snooze fest. The ridiculous health he has doesn't help with that either. Even with the use of status effects, your attacks will feel like paper cuts. No matter how many times I go back to this fight, solo or with friends, I never seem to have a good time. The Fire Giant is a required boss in the main story. He's definitely a large and mildly infuriating hurdle to get over, and you will find him at Flame Peak in the mountaintops of the Giants. Number 4. Golden Hippopotamus. Found at the main gate of Shadowkeep in the DLC, the Golden Hippopotamus is a prime example of what can go wrong with large animal enemies and bosses in Souls games. Entering this boss's arena basically always starts with it charging at you with its mouth open, ready to gobble you like a grape. This attack on its own is buggy and annoying, just like the charge from Gaius's boar. Not only that though, the rest of this thing's attacks are equally stupid, especially in the second phase when the golden quills come out. Every belly slam, every charge, every time it shoots the quills, all of these attacks are jerky and most of the time make your camera spaz. FromSoft has made their fair share of impressive bosses that resemble large animals and things of that nature, but it seems that they always sprinkle in ones that flat out suck to fight. In fact, the Golden Hippo having a simple moveset makes it so much worse. You feel like you shouldn't be dying to the moves it throws out, but going to war with your camera the whole time makes that almost a guarantee. One would expect this boss to be a slow-moving tank that hits really hard, yet leaves large windows to get in damage yourself. Instead, you get basically no openings to retaliate against this erratic, bumbling buffoon. The Golden Hippo has no redeeming qualities. The arena, moveset, camera, dodge windows, and overall design are genuinely terrible, and reflect most of the main problems one will find in bad Souls bosses. Number 3. The Ulcerated Tree Spirits. This is the most irritating field boss in the game, hands down. I know some people really dislike the Deathrite Birds, some dislike the Magma Worms. There are other field bosses that are widely disliked, all for valid reasons. But Ulcerated Tree Spirits are mind-numbingly stupid. Where do I even start with these turds? Well, I guess I can start with the fact they are actually shaped like turds. Visually, just an absolute jumbled mess of a design. No matter what area you fight them in, you are going to feel closed in, like you have no room to move. If you thought the Golden Hippo was a spastic dick, Ulcerated Tree Spirits take the camera bullshit to a whole new level. They also have a surprisingly deep bag of attacks that all look really similar to each other. It's damn near impossible to tell what an actual attack from it looks like. All you see is a massive worm writhing around and exploding on screen. Which attacks are punishable? I don't know. Take a guess. There isn't a single build you can use to make fighting these things any more enjoyable. There are 3 Ulcerated Tree Spirits in the game, and I find myself avoiding them every single playthrough. Number 2. Godskin Duo. I'm sure some of you would put this at number 1, and I wouldn't blame you at all. The Godskin duo has been, notoriously, the least liked fight in the game since release. Like I said earlier, gank fights aren't always bad. Think Ornstein and Smo from Dark Souls 1. When the bosses synergize in an interesting way, it can be a ton of fun. The Godskin duo, even though one is fat like Smo and the other is slim like Ornstein, there isn't any interesting synergy going on here. You are fighting two bosses at the same time that you have most likely come across and defeated already one-on-one. Farum Azula is a late game area filled with awesome enemies and bosses too, which shines an even more negative light on this duo. I'm not sure how FromSoft expected players to be interested in this fight whatsoever, and to make matters even worse, you have to beat them. This isn't some optional boss you can run past. I promise you, if you are attacking the Apostle, the Noble will hit you. If you are attacking the Noble, the Apostle will hit you. That is the whole fight, and you are doing it in a small arena where the breakable pillars and changing terrain can even screw you over. They share a collective health bar, meaning just because you kill one doesn't mean it's gone for good. Until that collective health bar is all the way at 0, either one can respawn from death. Now, there is a strategy you can use to make this fight way easier, and that is through the use of sleep pots. One singular sleep pot will put either Godskin to sleep, allowing you to fight the other one-on-one. But guess what? You're still fighting two bosses you have already fought before. This fight isn't challenging in a good way, it's just a bullshit gank without using sleep, and with sleep, it's incredibly lame. No matter how I look at this fight, it is easily one of the worst fights ever in Souls. Now, as for the number one worst boss in all of Elden Ring, the one boss that is worse than all the rest, I have to give it to Jori the Elder Inquisitor and his League of Lards, his Keckle of fat fucks. This bastard and his gang of wide-body summons are either spamming you with golden arcs, teleporting around the arena, smacking you with staves, teleporting around the arena some more, spamming you with even larger golden arcs, and that's just the first phase. Are you ready for more obnoxious mechanics? Great. The second phase is where his summons either chase you down, breathe fire at you, jump in the air and ground slam you. Oh, and once you get Jori himself down to about 30% health, it somehow gets more obnoxious, and he summons 4 Candle Inquisitors and 1 Fat Inquisitor. Fighting this boss feels like you're being trolled the entire time. Jori isn't particularly hard to kill. It's mainly the flurry of projectiles and bullshit from his summons that make this fight so dumb. It's a gimmicky mess that is meant to piss you off. FromSoft had to have been feeling extra evil the day they decided to design something this absurd. And considering hitting him with a melee weapon is like putting a hot knife to butter, there is nothing to respect about this boss, just a steaming pile of vexatious attacks and mechanics. Also, you have to defeat this boss to gain access to the Abyssal Woods in the DLC. So not only is this Jori guy a complete tool, but he's a gatekeeper too. He is bottom of the barrel in every single way. And that is going to be it for the 10 worst bosses of Elden Ring. If you want to see my honorable mentions, go ahead and check the pinned comment. And while you're down there, remember, if there is a boss that you really hate that did not appear in this video, go ahead and comment who it is. If you enjoyed, hit the like, it also helps me out a ton. And if you would like to enjoy future content on this channel, hit that subscribe and noti bell. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you all so much for your very positive support. I feel like there are no negative Nancys in this community, it's great. But yeah, stay safe, take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video.